everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really beautiful design. It's a super duo rope, and the concept behind it is actually peyote stitch, which surprised me when I first looked at it. There was a beautiful picture of one that I thought had to be crochet or maybe even kumihimo, and then upon closer inspection and looking at the pattern, it's peyote in the round. I mean, it's super easy. So let's make one. You'll love it. It's a way to use up all those super duos, and it's very inspiring if you want to try to play with some patterns. So that's where I thought I would add some value to what I found. The pattern that I've got here comes from the company that makes the super duos, and the designer, I want to make sure I give credit to her because she is the one who came up with this idea. And I thought her name was on here when I printed it. It is right here. It's Nella Kabelova. And so that's spelled Mela, and then her last name is Kabelova. And she actually has a website too. So what I was thinking I would do is drop all of that info in the description for this video. So you can be sure to give her a follow and thank her for this wonderful inspiration. And so I'm going to take from this and build on it a little bit. I tried some patterns. Now she's got some cool patterns going here. If you want to check out what she did like a back and forth spiral, it looks like. And of course, if you look up these online, there's a bigger picture of them that you can see. But what I did is I started making stripes that spiral down like a candy cane. And so one cool idea that Carmi had was to do a candy cane one with just white and red. And so after today, you'll know how to do that. And it'll be pretty obvious just how to work with two colors. But in general, the pattern starts with 5 colors. Now, when I made this one, I only had 4, and I had my heart set on working with just those 4 because I had made this palette I really liked. So I found a way to make it work with 4. And I'm also going to show you how to do it with 5 colors. So you would want to start with 5 tubes of SuperDuo or 4 tubes of SuperDuo. You don't need any other beads. When you want to finish it, there's a bunch of different ways. So a couple of things I've seen is people make cuffs. Like you can zipper stitch those 2 peyote ends together, and it would be a roll-on cuff. You could also put a finding. You could put a bead cap. If you have a big enough, like a kumihimo bead cap. What I did was something a little different. I just made a little hook, and then I attached some beading wire, and I put some beautiful gemstones on it. So I'm going to show you how I did it just because it's a little different than the stuff I've seen out there, and I think it's actually a little easier. It's faster. So we'll do that. And yeah, and then of course, check the description for links to all of the documents that I reference. And links to see all the different colors of SuperDuos that are at John Bead, because there's a lot of them and they're so pretty, you guys. There's like a whole series called Stardust. Oh my gosh, they're gorgeous. So, all right, let's get started. All right, so here on my mat, what I've got is the sample that I finished. So this one is the really beautiful SuperDuo rope with the beading wire end. And so what I thought to do today was maybe show a bracelet version that uses 5 colors. And at the end of the video, I'll show how I started this one with just 4 colors. I think it's a little like more straightforward if you work with 5 colors because of the 5 beads start. But that said, you get a really cool effect when you double up the colors. So like, for example, on this, you see it's got the 2 together. That makes a wider band as it spirals around. And so I just thought that was a really neat effect. So it's definitely worth showing, and it's pretty easy. So the fun part, getting to make palettes. Now, the palette that you just saw is one that uses a bunch of different, really kind of unusually combined colors. So check these out. Aren't these pretty? They're all really different. 2 of them are two-toned. So they have like one side's got one color and one side has like a almost like a half coat. I think that's even called a half coat. And so this is a lemon Capri. That's really pretty. Oh my goodness. And look at this one here is like a hyacinth with a bronze ice. And this is one of those matty bronzy ones. So pretty. This is one I used the most of. This one was the silk blue. It's like an opal silk blue. And then there's an accent turquoise blue Celsian. And Celsian finishes, I really like those. So this combination was like, I just thought it was really neat, and it came out really cool in this rope. So this is the funnest part, is it just totally gives you inspiration to take another look at all of your tubes, SuperDuos, and colors And then definitely check out the new ones at John Bead because there's new colors I hadn't seen before that are now available there. Here's the palette I want to do today. And believe me, it was hard to choose. I really struggled. So I started with, I mentioned earlier, there are these new Stardust ones. You guys, they're pretty. They're so pretty. They have this like, oh gosh, it looks like somebody took glitter, microscopic glitter, and just like put it all on there. Holy cow, it's cute. And so I've got two versions of that. I believe I have that one and this one. This one's called Autumn Leaf. Actually, this is the Pearl Shine Autumn Leaf. And Pearl Shine and Stardust have, they're similar but different. You need to see it. It's like this one has gold glitter and that one has silver glitter. But when I say glitter, the glitter's more like there's no individual grain showing. It just, you see something shine in there, something pretty. Okay, and then this is a good old Opaque. It's opaque chocolate. To me, it looks really terracotta. I think it's gorgeous. And I showed this one a second ago. This is the Pearl Shine White. It almost looks like limestone. So, I mean, just like these three together. I go kind of crazy about colors. Here is a Jet Full Capri, which has a copper, transparent copper with like lots of dark accent. So these together are the rope I think I'm going to make. I'm using some Wildfire 0.006, and I've got a size 12 beading needle. It's a hard beading needle. And I just got to decide what order do I want to do this in. And this is so easy, guys. You're going to be like, whoa, that's really, there's nothing to that. But I've got some little tips and tricks that I think I learned to make in the big rope necklace that might be helpful. So one of those tricks is, and of course, for this video, I'm working with a dark thread. I'm going to work with a black thread. But that first tip would be to try to match your thread color to your beads. And it can be hard to do if you have really different colors like I'm doing. This is going to be hard to have something match. So there's a trick you can do. There's a step up stage when you're building this rope where you add the next row, you have to step up into the next hole of the SuperDuo. And when you do that, you can continue on through a couple beads to get to the one that's got the color that's closest to your thread color and do your step up on that one. You're less likely to see the thread. And let me show you examples of both where I got it right and where I didn't, because I had this idea later after I was like kind of going on the design. But you see how here you don't really see my step ups very much because I had figured out that I should do my turns, my step ups on this bead. And you can spot one if you look. Just look really tiny right there. See it? It's one of my step ups. And here's one where I stepped up on a lighter bead because either I hadn't thought of it yet at that point or just got lazy. But you can really see it there. So my suggestion would be maybe work your step ups on that darker color bead with a darker color thread. I feel like that's easier to hide. And then if you're working with like a lighter color or all your beads are kind of a light color, just go with the closest one. And it should do pretty well. I have one more color to dump out here. And then we'll get started. I was trying to decide what order I want them in. And, oh, excuse me. I think I'm going to get the turquoise in there. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's going to be pretty. So I've got the Jet Capri, the chocolate, and then the sparkly turquoise, which is that's the Stardust one, limestone. And this one is called Autumn Leaf. So there's all those. I'm going to clear my spot a little bit. And because this is a lot of thread, I'm working with, I pulled a full wingspan for me, like all the way. There we go. You can work with whatever you're comfortable with. You will be adding thread even on a bracelet. It uses a ton of thread. So just, cut something that works for you. Here's the pattern. What you'll see in the description will be a link to this pattern plus another link that introduces how I did the patterns. So it'll be kind of like two PDFs. I might try to link them or something just to make it easier for you guys, but just know that they'll all be there in the description linked in some way. So I'm going to start with a 5 and we're going to just make a ring. And in this case, they're showing each edition in different colors. But for me, what I'm going to do is A, B, C, D, and E colors just go in a circle, and then we'll do a step up. This I'm going to do a knot and reinforce. She does say to go ahead and tie a square knot. to form that circle. And I didn't do that on my first one. And what I found was it was super loose on me when I was trying to work. So feel free to tie that knot. What it'll do is it'll cause your end to be tight together like that. See, you can see kind of like how close those are. So I knotted and reinforced one around one more time. And then when you attach this little jump of 4 beads, which I'll show at the end, it also is easier then because you're not trying to taper it back in. And that can be a little tricky tension wise. So, okay, so 5 beads. Let's start 1 and 2. Here's 3, 4, and 5. There's those. And as for a tail, go ahead and leave enough to do your clothes. So I'm going to leave 15 inches. I know that sounds like a lot, but I did some weaving around. I also used it to reinforce my start and to get that that loop to be pretty strong. So giving yourself some maneuvering is always helpful. So she says to string the 5, and that's what I did. And now I'm going to just tie a square knot with these. So let's bring this around like that. And again, I'm leaving that, 12 to 15 inch tail. So I have plenty to work with. So there's the first half of my square knot. And here's the second. And so you'll get that really pretty look right there. All right, so I'm going to go through some beads. So the last one I strung was my pink. So I want to go back through the Capri again. And that's going to be my step-up bead. I think it's going to be easiest to hide my thread on that bead. It's the darkest one I've got. So let's just keep going. Next one. I'm going to go all the way around until I'm back to that Capri bead. And with a ring this small, whoops, jumped away. What I find is that it's actually kind of tricky to get through more than one at a time. So I'm not really trying to do that here. I'm just going to go through each one individually. I just thought it was easier. I'm going to close my keyboard tray. I usually have to have that on to hit the record button and stuff, but I don't need it now. And my thread's catching on it. Okay, so let's go through the next one. So that's my A bead, Capri, the jet Capri. Okay, so we did our knot, we reinforced all the way around, and I continued on through what I want to be my step-up bead. And I'm just going to go through the open second hole of that bead. So in case anyone's new to SuperDuos, they have 2 holes, and I worked only with one of the holes so far this whole time. So now I'm just stepping up and going through this one. So just like that. Hopefully that's easy to see. And pop. Okay, so when you're working in this design, choose now which way you're going. So what happens is every time you do a step up, you end up switching direction. So you'll either be adding the color that you're coming out of or adding the color you're going into based on what direction you're headed. You get to choose on the first one, and then after that, you have to stick with it. So, and it'll swap back and forth every time. Let me show you what I mean. We'll work through like 5 rows, and you'll see it. So I decided I'm going to have it start with the coming out of a Capri, and then going into one. So pick up a new one in the color that you're exiting, and go ahead and add it. So stick with that. And the color I'm exiting now is my autumn leaf. So I'm going to go into this next bead after picking up an autumn leaf. And now here's limestone. I renamed that limestone. It's called something else, but I'm going to be calling it limestone because that's what it looks like to me. One thing I'm going to do to help myself out here is I'm going to shorten this. See, this area I've been working with here needs to be down a little more. That's going to help a lot. Turquoise, this is the Stardust. Super beautiful color. And Opaque chocolate. All of these part numbers, the John Bead part numbers for every color I'm using in both designs, I'll drop those in the description too if you want to add them. Okay. So there they are. And the convention I followed was the color that I was exiting. I picked that color up and added it. And so that's where we're at right now. So what we need to do is continue through the first bead we added in this round. So this is round 2, and I just went through that same bead. Now go ahead and go through the first one you added in this round. So that would have been our Capri here. Go through it, pull tight, and now make a turn. And then come up through that one. And the next thing you'll want to do is pick up. So this is where it gets a little tricky. I want to make sure I explain right. Remember we picked up the color we were coming out of? We're headed in the other direction now because the step up turned us. So we need to pick up the color that we're going into now. So every time we add it, you want the next light layer up to follow in suit. So this one, you want chocolate to be the next one. Capri, autumn leaf, limestone, turquoise. So just looking at, I'm headed this way. What I want to do is pick up the one I'm headed into now, which is the chocolate one. You'll see it when you're working, you'll see it. But just it takes some cognizance. I have pulled my work out a few times just because it wasn't working. I know I got the pattern wrong, right? Okay, so when you do that, one thing to note here is, well, two things. Your tail. You want to keep your tail on the side that's going to be left behind and work in the opposite direction of your tail. Otherwise, you might have your tail trapped inside your rope. So avoid that. I did that too. Tried all these things for us. The other thing you're going to notice is this is not a direct fit, right? It can move around. And that's good because it's going to start to dome now. So you got to pull really tight and encourage it to kind of bend down like this now. Okay, so we're going to just kind of encourage. It's not going to want to do it right away, but just encourage it to start doming. So here's the next one we need, the turquoise. It's the one we're headed into in this case. And you see it starts flopping open again. It's going to do that to you for this round. Don't sweat it. And there's one more. And now we'll need the limestone. We'll head into that. Autumn leaf. What a cool name. And just pulling all the way through this first one. There's lots of thread going on. Last but not least, here's that jet Capri. We're going into the next jet Capri. And I'm going to share a quick tip that's not in the pattern, but will be in my notes. Coming up right here. Okay. So that was row 3. And what you see is it's starting to dome. It's not super, super tight, but we're getting there, right? It's working. What I found is that like my rows were loosening up on me and it was really frustrating me when I was getting started. And I discovered way later that you can make the last row stay tighter if you do this one little trick. So I'm going to zoom in here really quick, really show you up close. So I just finished row 3 and I went through the bead that I was exiting from when I started. Before I carry on and go through the first bead I added, which would be the next step, right? We would go through the first bead we added in this round and then step up. We'll be stepping up through that chocolate bead. But before I do that, and again, this is just something I'm adding, I'm going to turn. So you see how I'm going back through. I'm exiting right here through from that bead. I'm going to turn through this one. And you want to do this on your dark color because the thread's going to show. But I'm going to turn through this, okay? And then give it some tight tension. Pull, pull, pull. And then turn and come back. Same one. Why I did that? It's locking it, right? Now we don't have to keep pulling on it and then have loose tension as we move up to the next row and so on, right? So that extra step just made everything stay put. And I really wish I discovered it earlier on that last one because I ended up going back and like stitching through because I didn't think it was tight enough. So anyway, try that, see if you like it. From here, what we're going to do is go through that next bead. And if it's tight like this now, because we tightened it up, just make sure you're only going through one, right? You just want to go through that first bead we added in that last ring. Pull tight. And then turn, and let's zoom out just a little bit so you're not seeing me go off camera as much. It's a really tight fit there. Okay, so there's my step up. Now I did my step up on the chocolate bead. That's okay. I would have had to do it over here if I hadn't done the turn. So I'll show you a couple tricks when we end up back this way next time. We might be stuck on this bead. I'll show you how to get back to the bead you want to be on for your step up. But for now, I figured this was okay. It's dark enough. It's not showing too much. Okay, so we've changed direction again. Did another step up. Now we need to pick up the color we're coming out of. Every time it's going to change on you back and forth with every new row. So we're exiting from this chocolate bead. So I picked up a chocolate bead. And you can error check it right on the spot. Just take a look and make sure that it's flowing in a spiral. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and then we're starting row 4. So there's 4. And then now I'm going to pick up the next one I'm going out of. Going through the next one here. And so on through the end. Here's one more. And what I did here, let me go back and show you because I just kind of went kind of fast there. The next one I would want to go through would be this one, right? I went ahead and continued through the next one because that one is the first bead that we added. This is where we would do our step up. But one more time, I'm going to do that little locking in effect. So let's go through this one. And pull tight, turn, and come through here. And then let's head back through it. And when I did that, I also continued on through the next Capri Gold, and now I'm doing my step up here. So you see how that step just, we were here, we went through and around, and then that way. I feel like that really makes it easier to keep your tension good. The tension is the trick for this entire thing. Even though the structure is very clear from just looking at the pattern. I'm going to bring the pattern over really quick. From just seeing, we did this, we did row 3. That was row 4 that we just finished. It's so intuitive. However, while you're working through it, it's wobbling everywhere and it's not staying put. This really, really, really helps. I found I only had to do this for a little while too. Like there were some rows where I just didn't need it and I could just step up and keep going. And you'll start to get a feeling for that while you're working on yours. Let's do a few more rows together and then I'll do a jump ahead and show you finishing it. I'll also probably stop the camera when I get to a place where I have to weave around if I'm not stepping up on the color I want to be at. Maybe that'll happen now. It's sometimes, depending on where you do that lock-in turn, gives you, oh, here's something else to show. I was just picking up the wrong color. So take a look at what we got. We're headed this way. And I was about to pick up the color I'm exiting because that's what my hand wanted to do. But what I need to do is pick up the one that I'm going into because that's the direction we're headed. So I picked up a chocolate. Let's go into the chocolate bead. And there's your spiral right there. This pattern is going to have a really cool effect because when I did on my original, when I used the same color twice, you could probably kind of figure out how I did that just by looking at this now. I feel like I'm kind of still doing that by these 3 colors here. By these 3, they're all next to each other. So it's going to look, like almost like a variegated, like it's got a little stripiness going on to it. I'm going to try to stay on camera for you guys. I keep wandering off. Okay. There's that. And one more. Okay. And so while I'm doing this, like every time I'm making decisions about where I want to lock turn and where I want to step up based on the color. And that's all. This is all optional. It's just the extras for making it perfect. So from here, this is a really great place to do a lock. So I just went through that bead here And I'm going to do my lock now, which is that turn. And it'll make the row we just made stay tight without having to go all the way around to reinforce it, which is really nice. And I'm going to head through the chocolate bead and do my step up on that one. And I decided that looked pretty good with my thread color. So from here, you guessed it, we're going to add chocolate because we're keeping that spiral going this way. Head into the next bead with that color. That was our step up that we just did back there. You'll know if you got it going the wrong way because it'll immediately just not look right to you. But if anyone's thinking ahead, this is how you change the direction. So for example, if you wanted to have a pattern where the stripe changes direction, you can do that by adding the colors in a different way. Like you could get a zigzag. Do you know what I mean? Like to do a zigzag, you would just stay adding them in the same, always add the one you're coming out of, for example, would give you a zigzag. That could look really cool too and be easy to remember without having to think through a pattern, you know? Here's another one. Okay, so we went through the chocolate bead here. And what I'm going to do is use it to turn. So it's a dark enough color. Come through. Let's go back through it. And I'm going to go ahead and continue on through the next bead there. All right, here's the step up into the next bead. From here, you guessed it, we would need to go add the color we're going into because that's the way it's headed now. And so that's basically it in a nutshell until we put the clasp on. So I'm going to keep going. I'll stop the camera if I end up, or start it again, if I end up in a spot where I'm on a color I don't want to be at, and I can show you basically you just weave back to the color you want by just going in that circle. But it works out really great from here. So let's finish it up and we'll meet back here. Hey guys, all right, I've gotten pretty far on this. It's maybe halfway done, I'd say, and I'm running out of thread. So I thought I would take this minute to start recording again and show adding thread. And then also, it hasn't happened to me many times, but a couple times I've ended up on a bead where I didn't want to do a step up because the color didn't match, and I mentioned I would show that too. So I'm going to kind of force it to happen on this one. So it's not really naturally happening. I seem to have some kind of pattern or rhythm going where it's just always on one of those other beads, the Capri or the chocolate. Anyway, so, but I want to show it anyway. So, and then I was going to share some info about how much thread I'm using now that I've done some testing. So my first edition of thread, I cut 70 inches. I left a 15-inch tail, and I have gotten a length of, it's a hair under 4 inches. It's like 3 inches, and it's a tenth away from being 4 inches. And I did that all on that amount of thread. So I would like to add at least another 2 or 3 inches for my bracelet. So I'm going to cut about the same amount of length as I did last time. And we'll go from there. So how much did I have left of my thread here? So what you're seeing here on the mat is that I've got probably a good working length of about 10 inches left on that strand. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to leave it in place. I'm going to even leave my needle on it. So just let that hang out. And let's get our new strand and put a new needle on that. Grab my needle really quick. Hopefully I can get this on there. Another thing I'm doing is I'm actually going down a size in my needle. I was using a 12 earlier. And I'm trying to get my wildfire through a size 13 right now, because I'm going to be doing some extra passes through SuperDuos that have a lot of thread in them already. And so this is just a suggestion. I know 13s are kind of a weird size and they're a little hard to find. And you'll be fine using a 12. So don't even sweat that. But since I'm filming, I'm just making it easier on myself. I'm getting through the beads a little easier this way. So I am cheating a little bit. I'm using a 13. size beading needle. The one I was working with earlier, that was a 12, and I'm going to continue working with that. But I'm using a convention for adding thread that I like to do with like almost every beading project that I do, which is I leave my old one, my old thread, leave it in place, let it hang out, bring in the new strand and build some new rows. Then I take that old thread and bring it up into the new rows so that you're not creating bulk in one place, by weaving in your old thread first and then weaving a new strand on top of that. You end up with like a section where all those beads have a little extra passes. And on something you want to flow like a rope, like this, you don't want spots where it doesn't turn and move for you. So that's the reason and the rhyme for that. Okay. And the good news is with this, it doesn't matter. So whatever direction you're headed, keep going that way. Whatever direction you add the new thread, great. Super forgiving. You can bring in your needle anywhere. So I think what I'm going to do for this one is looking on color wise, I think I want to go through maybe one of my Capris. So I'm bringing my needle in through that. And I'm 2-3 beads back from the end where I left off. And I'm going to go ahead and make a turn on that bead. So the same thing we've been doing, the lock-in that I've been mentioning, I'm going to do another lock-in here. And so let's just hold that and pull through. So that was just one of those little turns. Go back through here. So you see I made a full circle on that bead. And now I'm just going to travel through the next few beads in the string here. And then when I get to the next dark bead, probably one of the chocolate ones, I'll step up. And then I'll do some step ups through that section there. So see, I'm just pulling through, just going in a straight circle right now. And through this one. Okay, so now I'm somewhere where I feel like I can do some good turns. And I went through these next two here. Lots of threads, so bear with me. Okay, so here's the tail where I went into a bead right here. And here's where I'm exiting. You know what I'm thinking is I'm going to do my turn on the bead just before it because I don't want to go through that one again. I did a very large turn there. So what I'm going to do here is back out of that bead and do my turn on the chocolate bead. I might actually be able to, yeah, there we go. And you'll find that once you've got these beads stitched together like this, that can be a really tight pass going through them. Okay, so went around, I'm exiting from this chocolate bead. And what I'm doing here is kind of a summary of what I wanted to show as far as just selecting where you want to step up. All you got to do is keep going in that circle, around so that here I'll show I'm stepping up on one of my dark color beads. And if I wasn't where I wanted to be, in this case, I would just keep going through a few beads until I got to one that I thought I could hide my thread against and go with that. So that's what I'm doing here. Just kind of by way of adding thread, I can show both of those things. They're kind of the same thing. I'm almost there. I could have probably gotten away with adding thread another row up. This is going to be a very extensive thread add here. Okay, so here's step up through this bead here. And I went ahead and went through the next one. So I stepped up and then I continued through the next in that row and just trying to keep all of the old thread and the tail out of the way. Hold tight. There we go. Okay, so from here, I'm going to do another step up because I'm on a dark color bead. And then I continue through the next one. This is just weaving around. It's peyote stitch. So think about it like peyote stitch. You can go that left or right choice, And now here's another step up for me. And I'm still on a dark color, so I'm going to go with it. Okay, so now I'm kind of headed in the opposite direction of my old thread. But like I was saying before, it just doesn't matter. Like you can get away with either. I'm going to get rid of this tail though that I left from the new strand I added. You want to keep the old working thread, but let's trim this one. Just push down, pull up. It should disappear right there. And that all looks good. Okay, so old working thread, where are you? You're right here. Okay. If it's confusing at all to have that hanging out, bring it all the way down like this. Bring it just in this direction and just hold it. Let's make some new rows with this new one here. When I get to the end, I'm going to show you guys how much of a 22-gram tube of each color for each design got used up. It's surprisingly little. I have a lot of beads left, even on the one that I did the necklace for. And for the bracelet that's in my hand, I haven't even put new beads on the mat yet. I'm working with what I poured in originally. So it's going a long way. I think that you'll get a lot of jewelry out of just these tubes. It helps that I've combined so many colors together, I think. It stretches the beads a lot. Oops. There we go. Okay. So let's do a lock turn. And again, I'm just avoiding that, getting loose. So I did a lock turn. And when I did that lock turn, I ended up getting through that next bead as well, which is the one I want to step up from. So that's a win. Let's make one more row. And then let's bring the tail thread up into it. Okay, so there's this. Next one. Next one. And last one. Grab the chocolate bead, go through here. Here's a lock turn. And here's going through a great way I can show you how to find your way around if you're not. So typically I would do a step up, right? But I don't want to step up on that color because then it's going to show. So it's totally okay for you to just keep going around if you end up in that situation for whatever reason. For me, what triggered it was adding thread. It wasn't really, I think I was on a flow before and it just wasn't, for some reason it was staying on those two beads, the chocolate or the Capri, but now I need to get where I want to be. So all I did was I just kept going around. See, like that? And now I'm on one of the Capri beads and I'll just do my step up there. And let's let that hang out for a minute. Hook that into the mat. Here's the old working thread. I left that needle on it. Let's bring it up into the new rows we just made. So just taking a look at where I've exited from. I'm at looks like I had just done a step up on that bead. So let's go through this one. A little tight there with that 12. Turn and go through this way. Okay. I'm going to go back through here. I don't see any turns on that, so why not? Let's do a turn on that one. This is just weaving in, and you can get creative with that as long as you're following your thread path. Peyote gives you lots of options. Let's just keep going. So this is where it gets tight. I wanted to explain that earlier. That's why I switched to the 13. Do this bravely. Again, I'm working with 0.006 wildfire. It gets kind of tight. So just be careful you don't break your bead. And this really only will be a problem for you when you're adding thread and weaving in your old one. Okay. I'm going to trim it. I'm going to trim it right here. I think this is great, but I might do one more step up through this chocolate bead here. And I'll trim it there. Or actually, let me get a row through it and then I'll trim it because it'll get poked out. Actually, here's a good tip. If I was to trim this now and have it be on that step up, when I bring my needle through next, it might push that out. I think it might be better to trim it down here, don't you think? And we could even do a 1/2 inch knot. I didn't do that before, but if you wanted to, you can. So here's, pull up a loop. Maybe go through one more bead. Okay. So let's just push down, pull up. That should be totally fine. Okay, let's carry on making the rest of our bracelet. Throwing on some rows. Here's a quick hand I want to share too, really quick. Once you've got a lot of stuff that's like, you're working with and you're pulling out a new bead, I've been doing this thing where I pinch right here while I'm pulling up. And see how I'm doing that? That helps with the tension too. You'll feel it when you're working with it. You're like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. So see, I'm just holding it here. Especially when you're working with that really long strand. And another thing to watch out for that I ran into is some of my SuperDuos would turn. So they would turn like that while I was stitching. It makes the thread gap up a lot if it does that. So keep it from doing that. Don't let it turn in or out. As you're working, just make sure they stay pointed in the direction you're heading so that it doesn't give you too much thread. See, that's an example. You don't want it to do that. Make sure it pops up like that and stays tight. And so for some reason, doing this pinch motion makes it do that easier. Oops, sorry. Hitting the camera there. So I'm working with a lot of thread. It makes adding rows slower. It starts getting faster and faster as your thread gets shorter and shorter, and thus a lot easier. Here's a lock. So I just added the last bead for that ring. Lock turn. 1. Through both of those. And I'm hoping that lock turn not only makes sense, but also helps you. Love making these. Here's a step up. And we'll carry on. So what do I have right now? I've got, now I'm at exactly 4 inches. I'm going to make this closer to, I think I'm going to go to 6 1/4. And then we'll add the little, because the end is going to give you another quarter. And then whatever your clasp adds. So I could even stop maybe at, yeah, I think I'll go to 6 1/4, maybe 6 1/2. And then we'll make the clasp will make up that difference. But you can already see how cool this pattern looks compared to my 4-color pattern, and how just creative you can get with that, with just doing that one little color change every time. All right, more stitching for me, and we'll meet back when it's clasp time. All right, I've got it finished almost. We got to put the clasp on it, but here's what I got so far. And it's pretty good. I actually went a little further than I thought I was going to go. I've gotten this to almost about, it's 6 1/2. So currently this beaded length is 6 1/2. And I just went till I ran out of chocolate, which is kind of what I do in real life too. So I figured that was what I would do. Anyway, so here it is. And I'm going to put the clasp on it, finish it up. So, but I do need to show you how to close it. So let's zoom in a little bit. Okay. So from where I am here, I just added my last row, and I haven't even done my lock turn yet. I got that last row in there. So let's do my lock turn. Come back through here, through here. All right, so just making a turn. And let's continue through the next bead. That was probably the first one I added in that row. And here's my step up. So far so good, doing the same thing we've been doing. But now we're not going to add any new beads. So now we're just going to go through the next bead. So just go through the next one. Oop, we're not. Okay, next one. Go through the next one. And it's pretty easy. It's more of a tension thing, right? So here's the next one. Next one. Next one. Okay, and so what you're going to get is something that looks like this. And it's not going to lock in and be tight for you until you've made about 2 passes. So let's just do that really quick. But it gets better every time. There we go. And let's go one more time through it. That looks pretty good. And to show you the start, there's the start side. Here's the finish side. So it's not perfect, but it's close enough. The start side's always going to be tighter. You can always pick it out, but just pull it as tight as you can and you'll get it. Okay, so let's weave to exit from, let's see. I need to make a decision where I want what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an arc that combines, that connects these. Let me show you on the finished sample really quick what I mean. Let's see that little loop of seed beads. We're just going to hug the top of one SuperDuo and then hug with the one that's kind of across from it. It won't have a direct cross because it's a set of 5, right? But we'll just go for the closest one. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to probably go for, I think I'm going to go for the turquoise and maybe the Capri, or maybe the turquoise and the pink. Yeah. So let's see. Sorry about that. I was off camera. But either way, it's going to have to go through one of my lighter colors. I'm going to live with the turquoise. I think that's going to look pretty good. Let's zoom out a little bit. So I stop doing that. Okay, so you're going to need some seed beads. I use size 11. So I had these handy, and I thought, let's pick a color that we think really complements. You're not going to see, it's not going to be strongly seen, but I decided maybe the pink. That's kind of cute. And we only need 8 seed beads. I'm just going to pop those out. And what I did on the original was I just did 4. And so I'm going to do that again, but you could make this loop longer if you had something in mind that you were trying to attach to that needed more space. So let's just pick up 4 seed beads. And we're going to, from where we are here, let's make that easier to see. Just going to jump over. We could either go through Capri or pink. Well, let's choose the pink one. And I'm going out of the bead on this side, right? We're on, let me point to it, this side of the bead. So go through the opposing bead from the opposite side. So you get kind of an infinity or a figure 8 motion, right? When we finish the full rotation. But so yeah, so I'm through that SuperDuo. Come back up through the 11-0. Go through all 4 of them. I just got through the 2 there, but see what happens when you tighten it is those beads will hug the top of that bead. So come down through the next beads there. I meant to go through all of them there. And when you find yourself on the other side, complete that by going through in the opposite direction. So this is the SuperDuo we exited, right? And we're going to head back in that direction. And there, it'll just snuggle it like that. Reinforce that. All right. So that's nice and reinforced. And And that's where we're going to put a clasp on. Let's weave in really quick. I'm going to go through the next bead here, the next SuperDuo bead. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, blink. There we go. And make a turn. There we go. Go into the next one. Make another turn. Next one. Got some tight places here. Let's turn instead. Sometimes I think I just let the needle do what it wants. It's not always as obedient as I hope. So this one doesn't want to go. And I don't really want to turn on a turquoise. There we go. If you wiggle the needle, it helps a little bit, I think. All right. I'll be really happy if I can get through these pink ones here. And then we'll call it good. We'll do one more turn and we'll trim it. I'm going to turn on a pink. Why not? Okay. Let's go through a few more. And optional, but let's zoom in. Optional, but if you'd like to, you could do a little half hitch knot. So see, I pulled up a loop. I went underneath the thread, pulled up a loop, and we'll do pop there. Make sure you go through one more bead, and let's cut that. Scissors, there right here. Okay. And there's one side. So that's it in a nutshell. I will have to repeat what I did there with this side. But really quick, I was just going to show options for clasping it. And I thought, because this is such a really beautiful design, zoom back out, I would maybe go with something kind of fancy. So maybe we'll do one of these sterling silver clasps, and could also put on a lobster claw with some adjustable chain. A magnetic would be really cool. But let me find a jump ring that is the right size. I'm thinking a 6mm jump ring or a 5mm jump ring. Another thing you could do is you could wire wrap. And the reason I like the idea of a wire wrap is because you are dealing with some thread, and jump rings can pull through thread sometimes. But, you know, they haven't on the one that I've got over here. Oh, actually, the one I did over here, I finished with beading wire. Let me explain that again one more time so you know all of your options. Do you see how I've got that little length of beading wire there? All I did was crimp it. So yeah, that's not going to come through my thread where a jump ring could. But options are, I could have gone and directly attached my toggle to this. But I'm going to go with a jump ring because I think a nice tightly closed jump ring, maybe I'll double my jump rings, will work. So it's just one idea. There's lots of other ways you could do this. I'm going to grab some pliers. I've got some square chain nose and some bent nose. We'll grab one end here, find the seam. Set that down. Let's get our toggle here. Sorry for the loud noise. Okay. These are sterling, so they're in these little, they're like a sealing plastic so that they stay bright. You should always store your jewelry that way too. It's really handy. There's my click. And you know, I might put one more on. If you guys ever done a double jump ring chain, that's where you make a chain, but every link is 2 jump rings. I'm going to probably do that, and then I'll post the finished photo of this. It'll be really cool, but let me show you doing it on one. So I'm basically just going to overlay another jump ring where you see this one. So we'll put it underneath our seed beads here, through the toggle. Trying not to drop it. Oops. Sorry about that. Shake, shake, shake. But I get to see it again because I messed up. Okay, so let's go through the seed beads. And I'm just picking that up, see? Picking the seed beads up. And then through the toggle. Okay. And this is where those bent nose come in really handy in these little tight spots. Okay, so I actually really like the look of this too because it's strong looking. Look how cool that looks. I like doing a double jump ring, so I'll do the same thing on the other side with my toggle ring. Sorry, that was my toggle ring. I'll do the other side with the bar, but what I'm going to do is I'll have 2 jump rings coming off of the what will be the seed beaded little loop there. Then I'll do 2 more linked to that, and then I'll put my toggle bar on, and that'll give me some ability to move it around. So in a nutshell, though, that is how you make a SuperDuo rope, and you can make a nice bracelet. You can make a super long necklace, and you can make the necklace go even further by doing that. And so I promised I would show starting a 5-color design before I finished up this video. So really quick, I'm just going to clear what I've got here. And I'm going to shove these up here. Let's bring out those original four colors I was working with. And sorry, I just misspoke. We've been doing a 5-color design. This is going to be how to do a 4-color. And it's what I did on the original. And it's super easy. But basically what you'll want to do is you start with your first one and second color. Just grab those in the order I did before. It looks like I went from that to this one. And I'll summarize all of this in the handout. I'm going to do some like extra notes that accompany the original pattern, the one that I learned from. And it's just my notes as I worked through it. And also it will include part numbers for all of the colors that I'm using in case you love them. Okay, and let's see if I've got a little scrap of thread here. Looks like I've got well, that one's really short. Do I have anything longer? Yeah, this will do. Okay. It's going to stretch that out. All right, so 4-color design, instead of starting with A, B, C, D, E with, them laid out like I had before, you want to go A, B. First 2 colors are the same. Then from there, C, D, and E. And so what I've got there is I've still got 5, but I doubled up my first color. And the convention we're going to follow for doing the rest of the bracelet or necklace or what you're making is going to be exactly the same instructions that we showed earlier. So here's tying that score knot. I didn't leave a long enough tail there. You'd want to leave a longer tail than I did. And then you want to carry on through the next bead. And I'm going to keep going so I can step up on a color that matches my thread a little better. I'm also reinforcing. Okay, so here's what I started with. A and B are the same color, then C, D, and E. And that's how you can make 4 colors work. And you could probably do other counts as well. Those are just the 2 I've tried so far. Here's my step up. I did my step up on a darker color. And now row 1, you just want to choose. And I tend to opt for the color I'm coming out of, but it actually doesn't matter. Whatever you start now will change every row. Here's my half coat color. Get that one through. Okay, and so now I'm going to be doing this color, and then I'm going to repeat this color. You can do the lock on the first one if you want to. Here's the lock, right? That I've been talking about for making the previous row you just finished stay tight. Then, you turn and come through it, and here's the step up from the bead that we added. And I've got my tails staying on the outside. And from here, we need to add the color we're going into, which is the silk. And then add silk again. And try to make your dome away from your tail. You're going to get this dome effect here. See how it's starting to go. Next color is this one. And it won't quite do what you want until we do that lock. We'll go that far and then we can end the video. But I just want to show, in case anyone likes this and they want to do the same thing. Headed through the next one. And here's the last one. Okay. And so it's starting to dome noticeably now. We'll do one more of those little lock turns. Here's a lock turn. One, and then back through that same bead. Okay. Continue on through what was the first bead you added in that ring. And turn and do that step up. Now I stepped up on the wrong color, but if I wanted to not do that, I could keep going. Just go around a little bit longer. Hopefully not have to do this on every single one, but once you get it kind of locked into one spot, it tends to stay there unless you make a funky turn. I'm going to head over to my orange one. Hyacinth color, it's really pretty. Make sure you go through the right bead hole, and then here's a step up. And so from here, I would add the color that I'm coming out of because that's going in this direction now. So that's how you get started with 4 colors. And we did 5 colors at the beginning of the video. And let me finish this one up, take a really pretty photo, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like.